Hey everybody, I'm back with a new comic book spoiler review. And today we'll be talking about Doctor Strange. It's been a long time since I've done a Doctor Strange comic. The last time was in my earliest days of doing comic book reviews for the channel. And that was the Way of Weird and Last Days of Magic events, which you can check out on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. Uh, so you can hear my thoughts on that run. But before I continue, please do me a huge favor and check out my Patreon if you want to become a Patreon member, or just follow me on my YouTube channel, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, uh, Instagram, all that stuff. Links are in the description down below. Now, this run came out in 2018, written by Mark Waid, and art by Jesus Suez, and it's called Doctor Strange, Sorcerer of the Galaxy. I always thought this was kind of interesting take on Doctor Strange, and one of the biggest kind of criticisms every time a new Doctor Strange run comes out, it's never it's never that long of a run typically, but this was pretty this was pretty lengthy, a good 20 issues, so it's like a decent length, uh which is good because most people don't like certain comics that overstay their welcome. Just tell enough of the story that you feel like you need to tell, and most of the time 5 issues is a good short adventure that you just all you probably need. And Doctor Strange is kind of notorious of getting his stuff canceled back in the day. And the typical story is, almost always, not every time, but generally speaking, Doctor Strange always somehow gotta lose his magic and reacquire it and somehow. That's what happens with the last days of magic events. So here, this one was definitely a unique take that I always thought was interesting. So anyway, uh, Doctor Strange, little by little, going through his life, and he is, losing his gifts little by little. This is like not all at once. Certain things he can just see, like out in the world, that most people without any kind of magic based powers are unable to see. But slowly but surely, he's starting to lose grasp of it. Even like certain artifacts are just nothing but paperweights. Books he's able to like understand, the etchings are just fading away from his line of sight. He cannot grasp it. So now he is just like don't know which way is up anymore, because for years he's been the Sorcerer Supreme, and pretty much it's like that's all he knew. He stopped being a surgeon over a decade, in this current point in time. So he's been like the magic guy, the top magic guy. So he doesn't know what to do. And the typical people he would go to, he too prideful to go to, or he's unable to go to, either via different dimensions, which he cannot travel to without it being a danger to him, because he doesn't have the usual protections that he will always had. So he figured the next best thing is go to Tony Stark, because he's hitting rock bottom at this point, and he figured like who better to understand is Tony Stark. And Tony brings up that what he's probably experiencing is burnout, and it seems more uh, physical than mental. And since he can't, you know, uh, traverse the same ways to reclaim it, if it's kind of tapped out, his options are tapped out here on Earth, maybe you should look outside of Earth. So he suggested that you should probably go to other planets. There's other life forms out in the world. And there's a possibility that these other life forms, they got to have mages there too. They can probably offer some help. And I thought that was a brilliant thing. This is one of the things that I was like, when I first read this years ago when it came out, I thought it was like a brilliant freaking idea. It's like, yeah, that would make sense. All these other alien races these heroes interact with, what makes you think, like, it's kind of like the whole thought process. What makes you think we're the only life forms here on Earth? So by extension, what makes you think, Earth is the only place where, people can access magic? So why not try going out to the world, outside of Earth, and go to other planets, to ask any type of mages that might be there for some assistance, so you can just reestablish a new magic base, which I thought was really dope. Now, back in the day when I read this, I thought like, well, you might not want to, but you could have easily gone to Doctor Doom. Matter of fact, you see a cameo at the later end of this run where you see Wanda, Dr. Voodoo, and it's like, you're kidding me, right? It's like why? At the very least, Wanda, like she's an Avenger. When like you can get a hold of Tony Stark, you can get a hold with, Wanda or Brother Voodoo. You know where his base of operation is go to Louisiana. And it's like, you didn't really need to go off world for this. But like I said, it's probably just more so pride than anything else, because that's how one of his his flaws when it comes to a bit of his pride. So Tony helps build a little ship with the necessary essentials for him, and even charted a course for a nearby sentient planet. And you can't help but feel World War Hulk kind of situation, vibes come from this situation, where they almost the exact same thing is tend to happen here, where Strange piloted this ship that Tony built, and I like this thought bubble here where Doctor Strange is like, okay, I am never comfortable being out in space. I don't even like messing around with technology all that much. He does a little here and there. He has a computer at home, and he has a cell phone, but by and large, he doesn't really mess with technology, probably beyond that, because he's like a magic-based character. What would Mortal put it, in the movie? Because this is like not too long. This came out not too long after the first film. Mortal put it like, we're not savages. It's like, I still love that part of the trailer. It's like it's the Wi-Fi password. We're not savages. It's like, come on. It's like, come on. We really think like we're that like inept that we haven't evolved to the point where we can just accept certain pieces of technology. Like, you don't think we're that out of the loop? Even indigenous people have, a cell phone or two to utilize. Uh, but like World War Hulk, Tony's, Steven's ship, gets hit by an asteroid, which took him off course. He ended up landing on this different planet where he gets picked up by these alien races who, just advanced with technology. And of course, thanks to Tony, he has like some kind of inhibitor mechanism, so he'd be able to commune with other alien life forms. Because his magic usually help him with communication, so you don't have to worry about all that stuff. But he has to utilize certain technologies in order to get by for a little bit. But they hog tie him and put him in a cell, and he is trapped there for 3 months. Basically 3 months. He said like 72 days, so it's basically like 3 months, where he is tortured and enslaved, because he's like the first human they encountered. But upon during this period, he gets a cellmate named Kana, who is coincidentally a technomancer, which is a being who understands the arcane and combines it with technology. And she's also like an arcanologist. It's like an archaeologist, but for magic. She tries, she was on this planet trying to steal this mystic diamond looking thing, got caught, and now she's in prison with Strange. They end up working together in order to build this gizmo, which is kind of like a rudimentary wand, in order to break free from their cage. First, she wants to get that diamond in order to, because she was on the hunt for it and she's not leaving without it. Which Strange Star was so idiotic because they got to get off this world. But very Indiana Jones, she ignores all this other danger in order to get a hold of this object. She did. They managed to get to Strange's ship, but the problem being that they, upon as they leave in like the atmosphere, Strange realized that these guys, upon their little experimenting on him, they was planning on conquest and going to his home planet, and given their advanced technology, is a possibility they might succeed in order to, conquer. He cannot allow that. He realized what the magic properties of this gem is, and it's triggered by adrenaline. So he jumps off the spacecraft and, says some mystic words in order to use the gem to conjure this mystical shield around this planet, keeping, everybody on it from trying to exit. Because apparently they've never been off-world before, so this is their first time, so he's trying to keep them here, which he succeeds. And he gets quickly picked up by Kana, who tags along with him in order to assist him in order to regain his ability to use magic again. So they go and Sorry, everybody. I'm gonna put on a brief intermission while I go run really quick to handle some business. So pardon me. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. Sorry, everybody. Had to handle some emergency, but I'm back. All right. Anyway, where was I? Yeah. So, Strange and Kana went on pretty much just a little adventure, which I have my certain complaints on, but I'll probably wait until, if not halfway through or by the end of this review. But she takes him to meet these various mystics and collectors for him to, relearn some new magic for him to wield. And she suggested there's another mage that used to be her ex. That Strange isn't all too pleased with meeting. And he is a scroll. There's a scroll mage that she used to hook up with. And so Strange hears it, here's her little idea. He is like, oh, nope, absolutely not. We've turned this place around. And she was like, wow, what's going on? Like, he's a scroll. We had run-ins. My plan has run-ins with these folks too many times, and none of them have been good. Absolutely not. We're not dealing with that. I don't want to go anywhere near these people. They despise humans probably just about as much as they do the Kree. No freaking way. But she just assures him this particular mage isn't all like that. But yeah, but a good large portion of them are like that. And I'm like, I'm with Strange. I'm not dealing with the I'm pretty sure not all not all scrolls are evil, but by the roll of the die, more odds than not, you might be dealing with a very malicious creature from the Scroll Empire. But she swears on it, so Strange is like minding his P's and Q's and like, okay, but if anything is iffy, we're turning this whole thing around. So as they approach, they spot the guy, and Strange is astonished the fact that the mysticism he's wielding or spells he's weaving is impressive, given the fact that since scrolls are shapeshifters, he's able to weave certain magic better than anything Strange was able to do because he only has two hands. But he also noticed that this scroll is messing around with the time stone, which already is, upsetting Strange. But what's worse is that he's doing it for the super scroll. And now Strange is obligated to step in now because he is not cool with the idea of the Super Scroll willing such a powerful item. So they have to get it back. But in order to get Kana's help on this, he promised her that he will give her the stone because he doesn't want, honestly, he doesn't want anybody to have it, but she was going to help regardless if he didn't make this promise. So he's like, okay, look, I'd rather you have it than somebody like the Super Scroll. So just please help me and I will give you the stone. So in their ambush, and mind you, this is like a tie-in to this little mini event called Infinity Warps, where Gamora kind of, was kind of like a character assassination of the character. But around this time, she, I don't want to say she's gone crazy, but she's like, I don't know. I don't know which other way to put it but crazy, but she isn't like Scarlet Witch level crazy. But she's taken upon her own selfish mission to gather the stones, and then instead of eradicating half the universe, she's folded it in to merge certain Marvel characters into one another. Like you get Moon Knight and Spider-Man, you get uh uh oh crap, what did they call him? The Arachnite. And you get Stephen Strange merged with Steve Rogers, and you get I forgot what they called him. The I think like Sorcerer just calls him. I think they just call him Sorcerer Supreme or something. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I read that. It wasn't. There are parts of it that was kind of fun, but the stuff that led up to it was and around it, I should say, it was like wasn't all that good. But I decided to bring it up here. So if you want, you can check out the Infinity Warps, because at some point I want to do a review of that myself. There are parts of it that I thought was kind of fun, but mainly it's when they merged characters together for a brief period. But anyway, because I think there was an answer too, because there's a lot of things that Marvel and DC were doing before this Infinity Warps came around, which was pretty much trolling the fans, because people have been clamoring. I don't know what sparked it, but people was clamoring for a resurgence of the amalgam universe, because back in the 90s, Marvel and DC, before they became like so stagnant on not crossovers anymore or whatever, because the business side was at that time was like on thin ice at a certain degree. So they have the amalgam universe who merges some DC characters with Marvel characters, which the merging was kind of fun and certain things was kind of interesting, but everything around it leading up to it was kind of like, they wasn't sending us their best writers. Let's put it that way. And so they kind of, because Marvel wasn't going to, at least the company was not going to allow themselves to merge with DC, even though y'all work, like y'all trade writers every once in a while, or y'all like go to the same functions a lot of the time. I mean, some of y'all have made good relationships with one another. Don't understand why you had this weird need to like not every once in a while do a certain crossover, but whatever. So Marvel's answer to that, instead of like working with an opposing company, it's just like, well, we got plenty of characters on our own side. Why don't we just merge our own characters together? That way we can tangentially give what the audience wants without actually having to go across the street. But whatever. So Doctor Strange managed to get his hands on the Time Stone, and of course it has to be Doctor Strange and the Time Stone, because it's right, like I said, like right after the first Doctor Strange movie. So of course he wielded the Time Stone in his Eye of Agamotto. So he used the Time Stone to pretty much do time split after images of himself in order to blast and subdue the Super Skrull. And in an ensuing fight, the Super Skrull accidentally fried his own mage. So they managed to escape along and take with them the time stone. And as soon as they, make it off world, kind of ask, okay, we did it. Now hand me the time stone, and immediately Steven reneged on the deal, which has upset her. But Strange uses artifact to cause her to forget. So that way, which is something he didn't want to do, but he needed her help, and she wasn't going to let it go. But he cannot, have something like this in the hands of anybody. So he had to secure it until he knows what to do with it later. So after that point, they go further into another adventure where they are tasked with retrieving this dwarf from not Asgard, but Nidavellir, the realm of the dwarves. One of which is one of the best blacksmiths, which was kidnapped by this alien race, and the leader wanted to use them in order to build his fleet and his weapon in order to conquer worlds. And so Kana and Strange go to rescue him, but are nearly captured. Go here. Kana ended up pulling a move where she teleported crap. I forgot what the Asgardian dwarf's name is. I keep want to call him Puck, but that's a different character from a Canadian superhero. One second. Okay, what is it? Well, anyway, the blacksmith. Let's call him the blacksmith. The blacksmith, kind of, checked Steven because his plan of trying to save him resulted in like kind of haphazard way of doing so, and as a result caused Kana being captured, and she's going to be used to create the weapon for these ethereal aliens. And the blacksmith chastises Strange for his attitude as of late, because he's just kind of just bitter with himself because he lost his magic before, and he got a bit of arrogance and everything like that, which the blacksmith kind of points out. Now, you say you're doing this all for justice. Let me not butcher this here, because I really like this. look, you're broken. Your fear is that someone or something knocked you down, stole your toys. It practically radiates off you. I wanted justice done. Well, there's your problem. Justice, young man, is all well and good, but it isn't a founding principle of magic, and you know it. Neither temper, neither is self pity. You're not yourself. Like, how dare you? Uh, Spoken like an arrogant man who just realized exactly how angry he is, and who had damn well better get over it if he wants to be skilled enough to save his friend. So yeah, he's pretty much got, a reality check, which every once in a while in certain stories you gotta rehash that a bit with Doctor Strange, which kind of wish they, we already kind of redone so many times. It's like similar to like Batman. It's like, okay, you kind of reset the characters, sometimes, where it's like, okay, he shouldn't be relearning the same lesson that in the last adventure or the last run already handled that. Like, Batman has to relearn to accept that he has family and friends. He doesn't have to do this mission alone. And he learns that then whoever takes over the next run gotta learn that same lesson. And it's like, with Strange, yes, he's arrogant. He gotta learn that he gotta take that, put that to the side, all that stuff. And it's like, okay, you gotta do something differently. I know it's like a, character flaw that every once in a while people have to relearn, depending on the situation. But I don't know. It's like learning the same lesson you have to, every year that you should have already learned from the first time when it sprung up since high school. And it gets kind of like annoying. You know what I mean? So the blacksmith explains that, okay, where's your stuff? And because Strange is about to utilize certain tools in order to see which one can help with putting a stop to these alien racist plans and rescuing his friend. But the blacksmith points out, no, I don't mean their stuff. I don't mean like the sword of this person. I don't mean like the orb of this person. Where is your stuff? Like, where's the sword of Strange? And Doctor Strange, it kind of daunted on him. Well, throughout his years of being Sorcerer Supreme, he never crafted something that he made of his own. He always utilizes some other being's artifact. He never made an artifact that he can actually call his own, that future magic wielders will call upon one day. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, yeah, that is a good point. Doctor Strange's been around for so long. He never crafted, items that he made personally himself for him to utilize. That is just like so much like a fun to think about. And cool with like Mark Waid. It's like, that was like a very genius thing to input. Yeah. Where's something that Doctor Strange can call legitimately his own? So the blacksmith takes him to this forge. Pretty much like, I guess it's like an abandon that Strange will take it upon himself to utilize as like a new home base in a sense, which hasn't been utilized since this adventure, which is a shame because it's like a cool idea. It's like, yeah, Strange should have his, own place to craft certain items that he can call his own. So, and also he managed to get reunited with his cloak of levitation, by the way. because it was like inert early on in the story. But now that he's like more, started getting tapped back into magic, he's able to wield it again. And he kind of manages to utilize what little spells she has to, contact Doctor Strange and warn him that this alien race, these conquerors are planning to start with his home planet Earth. And by the way, kind of, gives him the nickname Earth Belly because it's how she views Earthlings. And I call them Earthlings, or at least she doesn't call them Earthlings. She calls them Earth Bellies. So Strange crafted his own tool, which since he's a doctor, he calls it the Scalpel of Strange, which is pretty cool. You might easily misconstrue it as a sword, but no. The way the curvature of the blade, he considered it a scalpel, which is a surgical tool that he used to traverse space time or just space, and just go wherever he wants to. So now he got a brand spanking new outfit, which I think I love the most out of all the Doctor Strange's costumes. This one I honestly think is the Galaxy Supreme Strange. I think that costume was like the best looking out of all of them, personally. So he easily knocks aside this Conqueror's forces and easily incapacitates him, while him and Kana take one of the ships, and as Strange is like on top of the ship while Kana is maneuvering, he carves in the space a Sanctum Sanctorum sigil in order to, I guess, evaporate or transport the giant bomb or missile that was firing directly towards Earth and causing it to just disappear, and then sends the Conqueror back to his home world, completely defeated. So now that he kind of regains his access to magic, he and Kana go to the Sanctum Sanctorum, where he finds Doctor Strange, and wearing the costume that he was wearing during the last days of magic, which is also a decent costume too. And this Doctor Strange is telling Galaxy Strange, it's like, get out of my house. So what the heck is going on? And it turns out this Strange that popped up out of nowhere isn't really Strange. It turns out to be this woman, I think Casey, that Strange assisted in a previous adventure, that she seemingly had been lost, but now is back under the disguise of Doctor Strange. So now Strange is now confused, thinking like she used to be an ally. What was going on? Oh, and by the way, Steven has like a ghost dog named Bats that used to be alive that he took care of, but Bats died, but came back as a ghost. So now he's part of like his supporting class moving forward. So Bats is like a thing now. If you've been keeping up with Doctor Strange for the past, since 2018, you know about Bats. Bats is a good dog, fun character. Anyway, so now Strange, Kana, and Bats gotta figure out what happened to Casey and how to stop her, because she's kind of like wreaking havoc. trying to specifically kill Strange. Uh, Strange uh, uh, try to get in contact with this creature that assisted him during uh, 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 during this part where that he knew Casey as well. They were trying to fight this evil entity named Juno, but because Casey seemed lost because her soul was taken, and Strange, instead of blaming himself, he couldn't really focus on the fight at hand. The creature, I think it was called Larry, or a bone splitter, something like that. I don't know. I was gonna call him Larry. Larry convinced Strange, okay, you cannot focus because you too busy beating yourself up and your spells ain't potent as they should be. So he suggested to take the memory of what happened to Casey away. He'll hold on to it until the time is right to after Juno is taken care of. Unfortunately, Juno ends up killing him in the process. So that piece of memory has just kind of just lost, was not reclaimed, or at least given back to Strange. So that way, once it given back, now with Juno taken care of, he can fully, commit himself to trying to figure out how to help Casey. But since he doesn't have that memory, he never. Casey was left thinking like Strange completely abandoned her. He just didn't remember her. Boneflay, that's the wife of the Demon Ox. So, the wife blames Strange for what happened to her husband. So, because he's the one who had to relay this message to Strange. So, she explains, well, there's nothing you can do about it. Only reason I'm telling you this because you can, at least understand a fraction of my pain right now. But if you ever call upon me again, or if we ever cross paths again, it won't be pleasant. So now that Strange knows the details, he's tracking Casey down in order to subdue her and try to hopefully help her. He tracks her down in an Atlantean, part of the Atlantean city, which she ends up using this mystical item to set, the city on fire. And since it's mystical, it's not, easily dousable. And Strange is just taken aback how Casey's just like on a murderous rampage. And it's like, please, these people don't know they don't understand. They never seen fire before. These are underwater dwellers. So he has to save all of them while Casey's making her escape because she's gathering artifacts in order to take on Strange. And while Kana and Bess are back in the home base trying to figure out who liberated Casey, because this other crazy looking entity was holding on to Casey's soul, but that creature was eradicated by another shadowy entity. But not going to beat around the bush, it's Baramoto. And he kind of twisted Casey to his own ends to throw at Doctor Strange. So kind of then we get a little bit of kind of a backstory here, where the homeworld where she comes from is more mystical base in origin rather than relying on technology. Like almost like the empirical in a way, but more a passive race rather than the empirical, where they are super uh, obsessed, very like zealous when it comes to mysticism, because they end up worshiping Shumagarath, and this is all back into the last days of magic, mind you, with the origins of the empirical. Here, Kana and her mother, Kana's mother, like showed her like a bit of technology, which is like a marvelous wonder to her perspective. But the father didn't appreciate that. He, you know, it's never fully specified what he did to the mom. She was never heard from again. I think no. I think people who doesn't abide by the rules of magic, they were cast out, because it never specified that he killed her off, but he just threw her out of the entire place and kind of snitched on her. So you can infer wherever you want, because Connor's an adult now, so she never bothered to try to look for her mom, so it's just assumed that she died. So she had like a bit of grudge against her father. So when she was old enough, she got a spacecraft and headed off world and became like an archaeologist. Okay. But anyway, while Strange was dealing with trying to figure out where Casey was gonna show up next and figure out her plan is, well, he knows what her ultimate plan is, but trying to figure out where she'll pop up next so he can intervene. Bats was assisting uh, Kana, and he inadvertently kind of spilled the beans about the whole situation with the time stone situation, which I guess Strange kind of because he always confides in bats with a lot of stuff, so he never about to put or at least bring up, never tell her about it kind of situation. So he let it slip, and it kind of forced the magic that was cast on her to dispel. So now she remembers everything, but she's still assisted because she's still a good person. It doesn't want this crazy woman who's obsessed with Strange to cause havoc. So you got to put a stop to it because it could spread. Now Strange has to take on Mordo, but thanks to Kana managed to help Casey. Strange decides to take a piece of soul from him, Bats, and Kana to essentially reconstitute like a merged piece of soul to just replace, in a sense, what Casey was missing, so she can have a bit like empathy and, you know, uh, just come together essentially. So she assisted into dealing with Mordo and put a stop to his schemes. But once that was dealt with, kind of chewed out Strange for tricking her and uh, uh, invading her mind the way he did, and kind of like threw it in his face. No wonder people and the women in your life, you know, uh, view the way they viewed you, because you are arrogant. You think you know better than everybody else, and you overstepped your bounds. All this other stuff. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. So she kind of storms off. But that is pretty much like the end of that particular arc. Now we get some moments of like a breathing room before the next adventure comes up, where this real estate developer is trying to pretty much gentrify or buy up certain blocks on Greenwich Village. And we get like a moment here, which I really wish we get more of in certain Doctor Strange stories, or at least have like a run with Doctor Strange just dealing with street level stuff here and there. Nothing too world-endingly crazy, but still problematic in terms of street level problems, because Doctor Strange can be played as like a street level hero if you get the right writers to come up with like a solid like story for that, because he is, you know, like part of the the neighborhood community, where he helps out, kind of like the way Matt Murdock and Foggy helps out their clients, and they kind of like pay them back in like pies and other amenities or what have you. Doctor Strange, help out because he is still a doctor, and he helps out whether it comes to metaphysical or the physical. He helps out the neighborhood, and the certain people there know him and they confide in him, things of that sort. He just like, he made some solid friends in the neighborhood, and they're worried because a lot of their other neighbors' property getting bought up and bought out, and things of that sort. And of course, Strange doesn't want to give up his sanctum sanctorum, but the company keeps sending people like this lawyer to talk about giving up this piece of land, which Strange is in. He's not going for it, but they are persistent until the head of the company tries to put out some fake news about Strange, like, oh, he's like a devil worshiper and causing people to boycott in front of Strange's place. And then one day, the guy sends goons to blow up one like the nearby markets, which the owner nearly died. And so this kind of sets off Strange, where he managed to reconstitute the bomb for the police to lift fingerprints on. Find out the people who perpetrated it is connected to this company, where Strange shows up first to mentions yeah, you crossed the line here. He sees the cops showing up at the company, and Strange just pops up and saying, "They're here for you, Mr. Chuna." your enforcers turned on you for ordering the destruction of David Martinez's building. Uh, you can't have Bleecker Street. Don't make me tell you again. But this guy is like he's connected to some powerful people who knows about Strange and what he does. Who doesn't, who or shouldn't know about Strange and his capabilities. Sure, you might be skeptical, but I'm pretty sure word gets around, especially after you see this guy helping out people like the Avengers and Spider-Man. I mean, come on. But that's when the powerful people are trying to label Strange as a Satanist. But the people in the neighborhood who are close to Strange knows better. So Doctor Strange goes to these people board meetings to just settle things. He's trying to settle things legally. But this is kind of a thing you expect him to call upon Daredevil or She-Hulk in order to settle things. But instead, he gets a demon lawyer to convince them. So they have to put out in the newspaper that they were wrong. To I kind of wish we got a little bit more with this, like what was said exactly, but I guess we can just infer. But they still will not let it go. So they send another dude in a suit who turns out to be a demonic creature that they summoned in order to get the land. But Strange quickly dispatches him because, like in the movie, puts him through a doorway that transports the home anywhere in the universe, and he comes out on top of the moon, where the creature freezes to death, and he points out to the creature that he won't sell because he likes the people here. It's not the land, because the house can go anywhere he wants it to go. He just likes the people here. And it's something that him and none of his other cronies can never understand. Well, on his way home, all of a sudden, showing up, kneeling to his feet, is his mentor, the Ancient One, alive and well, or well enough, and asking for his help and calling him master. Apparently, some dude in a sweater vest, who will be known as like the accountant, like a magic accountant, took him out of wherever heaven he was in, get some demon to carve out part of his brain that hold the knowledge of all the mystical lessons he's learned over his long life. And now the Ancient One goes to the Sector Sanctorum to ask Strange for help. Now, of course, being a doctor, he knows his master's gonna die again. So he's trying to. He also needs answers, but he also don't want his mentor to die on his watch. So he, use some mysticism to prolong his life a little longer, so he can teach his mentor how to do it himself. And it's kind of surreal for Steven because unlike him, the Ancient One is a lot more patient. But it's kind of surreal for him, where it's like, wow, the roles are completely reversed, and I have to teach my ancient one similar stuff that he taught me now. And it, it's kind of like a fun thing to see, because every once in a while you see Strange teaching a new generation of mages, but none of them actually stick for a prolonged period of time. There's no Robin for Doctor Strange, someone who sticks around for extended periods of times with multiple adventures. Then, while the Ancient One is sleeping, Strange peers into his mind and realizes what happened. So he tracks the, kind of like the breadcrumbs of this guy's energy to this void. It's kind of like a mystic, what do you call that? Office. Not office, but you know what I mean. It's like, cubicles without the cubicle part. Where a bunch of these creatures that almost look alien in design, like an alien race, not just like otherworldly, just like alien, look like alien beings, and not something a little bit more mystical. That he meets up with this accountant and is trying to get him to give back what he stole from his mentor, but he ain't in the mood to have like a calm sit down with this accountant. So the captain knows a few spells of his own and just, owns Doctor Strange. It's like, pretty much throwing him around like a rag doll, essentially, which caught Strange completely by surprise. He also informed Strange that you better mind your P's and Q's, because I also have in my care Wong, Kana, and Zelma, who should have been more so Doctor Strange's permanent ward, where currently right now she's partially in charge of Doctor Strange's school for his gifted youngsters, essentially, for kids with mystical abilities. Or essentially, she's like the librarian of that school / teacher. But we should have done a lot more with Zelma, because she's actually a pretty good character. Whenever it's always fun to see her when she pops up. But I expected, her to be around Strange a lot more, watching her learn more, and be on these adventures with Strange. But it's fine. But she's actually a legit cool character. And we don't really need her to do no superhero stuff. She knows her way to defend herself if need be, but she doesn't need to put on any tights. Cause that's what drives me crazy. Certain supporting characters doesn't need to be in the fray, like the typical superheroes like Cap, Bucky, Strange, Spider-Man, Miles. They don't. It's like, it's like trying to give Mary Jane superpowers so she can fight alongside Peter Parker. It's like, no. It's like they don't need to serve that particular purpose. They was fine the way they are. You're trying to, I know you gotta shake things up in terms of the instead of stagnate, but there are certain things that should still be the norm. Whereas like you can keep it the way it is, but you can play around with it here and there. But you completely taking it off the reservation completely, where it's like it's not the same anymore. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys get what I'm driving at. Where it's like, okay, you're veering off road. You can swerve, but if you completely go off road, then you're not on the path anymore. So Strange then, it's like, okay, I can't deal with this guy mystically, so he decides to handle this with fisticuffs, thanks to Wong a long time ago teaching him how to use hand-to-hand fighting. So now that he finally subdued this accountant because he managed to release his friends after stealing the keys from him. The guy chewed out Strange, saying that, like, you fool, because this is the guy who was the reason that Strange was losing his abilities early on in the adventure. It's like, what I did was the peaceful route. Of course, he would have, Strange immediately would have understand if he would have like let cooler heads prevail and actually talk with this dude. But according to him, that he essentially made an arrangement where because like I said, like this is not too long after the first movie where they kind of establish about the billing, the bill comes due kind of situation that Baron Mordo in the film made it a staple in like Doctor Strange comics, or just any mystical being in comics bring up, because magic has a cost, at least in terms of Marvel's comics case, because mystical characters always seem OP. And a long time ago, people always either teased or joked, or every once in a while bring up, it's like, man, this superhero is going through this particular hard situation. Why don't they just call up Doctor Strange so they can just fix it? And that was like a very simplification of the situation. Sure, Doctor Strange can deal with almost any problem. He can't fix everything, but this magic has a cost is a way to give mystical characters a level of weakness, so that way they can't just pop up and just do anything. And it was established in my last Doctor Strange review of Way of the Weird and Last Days of Magic, where Doctor Strange, in that story, he can't hold down regular food anymore. Wong has to create a different otherworldly delicacies in order for him to feed and eat and be able to sustain his body. And other times he has to throw up a lot whenever he uses a particular brand of magic. The more powerful the spell, the more the cost comes. And I thought that was a good idea, because there you got like a good built-in weakness for a lot of these magic users in the Marvel universe, so that way they can't just completely overpower everybody at a whim. They can just any writer or any reader can say like, why Wanda just can't do this, that, or the third. Well, because there'll be a negative feedback the more power she ends up using from this mystical artifact, blah 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 blah. So that way it kind of that way it can like kind of shut a lot of people up, so that way they just can't just keep using that line of reasoning in their mind. So the accountant mentions that, okay, because before you keep calling upon all these otherworldly beings powers, like the Crimson Band of Sidorak, or like Flames of the Faultine, all this stuff. You ask for their gifts, you never pay them back for that, tapping into their use, because they want payment. And the bill keeps piling up. They call it in the tab. Now, unfortunately, the tab has gone too large, more than you can even hope to pay for. It's not like you can give your life and call it square. That's not gonna suffice. So now they want your planet to even things out. That's how much he built up through the course of his superhero career. But the accountant offered a different alternative by causing Strange to just lose his access to magic altogether, which you would then ask yourself, because I'm asking myself, okay, why didn't you clearly went to his ancient one and drove him out of the afterlife to steal his piece of his brain with all his mystical knowledge and everything like that. But it's like, which, by the way, why would you even care? Maybe to draw out Strange, but you gotta do a myriad of things instead of yanking someone he knew that's already dead and yank him out of the afterlife. Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure he's, long after this adventure, he probably passed away and then, back in the afterlife. They kind of left that, on the table after this little arc is done. But anyway, he could have just easily go to Strange at any time and had to sit down with him. Strange. You should know Strange well enough. You should have known that you can easily sit down with this guy and talk with him and explain to him, yeah, I'm going to have to take away your access to your abilities. Instead of letting him assume something else is wrong, because what you think was going to happen? You think he was going to lie down and accept it? No, he was probably going to find some alternative way of utilizing magic again. So you could just avoid a lot of this by calmly sitting down with this guy with some tea and telling him about this whole situation. So that way he'll understand why and just accept the consequences. Because if you tell him the alternative, like Dormammu's race as payment, because they're defaulting, conquering planet Earth. So now that's what's happening. But you could have just avoided all this by just telling him that way. I'm pretty sure Strange will probably be more than willing to accept the consequences. But now Dormammu's race is pretty much pillaging planet Earth. And Strange is just kind of perplexed. He doesn't know what he's going to do at this point. And of course, right on cue, Dormammu shows up. Just to gloat more than anything. Because he doesn't even like his own race, let alone anybody else. But he is reveling in the fact that he managed to he plans on letting his race do the hard part, while once done and they kind of exhausted themselves, he kind of just picked them off one by one. But he just gonna stand by it and just glow for a little bit as Strange. But Strange decides, okay, I can't do this on my own. So he managed to get the piece of the brain of his mentor that holds a lot of knowledge of mysticism over the many centuries. He split that knowledge off between Kana, Wong, and Zelma, and he sends them away so they can, because he mentally put into their mind what he wants them to do, so they go off and figure out a way to neutralize these Faltines, while Strange keeping Dormammu occupied. Well, I'm sorry. They found the piece of brain of the Ancient One and it splits off between the three of them. Strange didn't do it himself. So, utilizing that knowledge in combination with their own unique skills, they managed to take down a Faultine one by one. But the danger is because they're not equipped to handle all that knowledge that the Ancient One has accumulated and, tested and, wielded for so long, so his body can be easily been acclimated to that. Them getting that quick download of all that knowledge is too much for their bodies to handle. It will cause them to essentially go brain dead if left too long inside their minds. So each of them takes down that Faultine. Now they all show up together to try to subdue Dormammu. But the power that they wield are becoming too much, so Strange had to stop the attack on Dormammu to take away that knowledge and sends it back to his mentor. And then Dormammu taking it upon himself to attack Strange. But luckily, the Ancient One shows up in the nick of time, Deus Ex Machina, and neutralized Dormammu. Of course, he slithers away, while the Ancient One and Doctor Strange sends away all the Faultine back to their home dimension to save the Earth realm. So it all ends with Strange, Wong and the Ancient One leaving together. Wong helping his mentor, I guess, reacclimate until the time comes when he passes away naturally again. Kana goes off, I guess eventually goes back to space or what have you. She's never seen from after this adventure. And then, of course, Zelma, she pops up here and there throughout certain Doctor Strange adventures. So she's not completely gone. Similar to Wong, it's not completely gone. But then there's like a new arc where this alien race, this alien being, alien mystic named Zos, who is a very aggressive character. His alien race are very aggressive beings, kind of like a warrior race, but for mysticism. So they handle things with more so with confrontation. And he's arriving at the Sanctum Sanctorum because he senses powerful magic through here, and he explains to Strange that his race is under threat because Galactus is showing up and is going to consume his planet. So he needs a way, the knowledge he needs from here in order to deal with that. And the only reason he knows about here at the Sanctum and Doctor Strange is because the Silver Surfer, who I guess at this point in time was Herald of Galactus again, they know about him. They managed to subdue the Silver Surfer, experiment on him, and realize the way that the last place was able to repel the only place was able to repel Galactus was Earth. So that's where Zos was charged by other mystical council bestowing portions of their power to Zos to add to his own, so he can traverse the galaxy in order to rapidly show up on Earth at this particular location to figure out a way to combat Galactus and deal with him. Strange wants to help, but this guy ain't trying to listen to him, and he's very rude and aggressive, and Strange ain't, down with that attitude. And in the midst of trying to subdue Zos managed to get a hold of other artifacts in Strange's place to overpower Strange takes his astral body and traverses the galaxy back again in order to confront Galactus. And despite Strange's pleas, Zos decides to use the power he accumulated and sends Galactus away from this universe. And sends him, not sure if it was on purpose, but he sends Galactus in the mystical realm. And because of that, there's other creatures fleeing from like the dark dimension and Clea's dimension, like various mystical dimensions, because Galactus still needs to feed, but he's kind of like a science-based, sci-fi-based type of character, not used to dealing with things on the mystical plane. And of course, the people on the mystical plane has never experienced somebody like Galactus. So of course they're running scared and trying to get out of here. But it's kind of useless because since Galactus is now kind of like altering the balance essentially and still needs to consume, because the mystical realm still has its own brand of space and planets and stuff like that for him to consume. So, as a result, it causes an imbalance because now it's starting to affect the other realms, where even like mystical characters are sensing it. Uatu the Watcher is sensing it. Thanos, the Eternity, the Living Tribunal. A lot of entities are starting to feel this feedback essentially. So Strange goes in and sees like Galactus just going by his like singular motive is just consumption to sustain himself. But he's unfamiliar, or nor does he care about being in a different particular space-time. So now Doctor Strange has to deal with this. Of course, he's trying to inform Galactus, trying to placate to his logical-based rationale, explain to him like, this is not places where you need to be. You're not consuming plants here. It's probably not going to be good for you. We need to be able to send you back. Of course, Galactus ain't trying to hear it. He needs to sustain himself. He hungers. And so he kind of swats Strange away like a fly. So utilizing the same thing Zod did to him, he tries to imprison Galactus into like a pocket dimension, which won't last long. But thanks to Clea showing up in the nick of time to give him a boost that he needs, he passes out, and as he wakes up, she explains to him that Omar, Dormammu's sister, is mounting her and Omar are mounting forces on the mystical plane in order to combat Galactus, because the restraints that's holding him ain't gonna last long. So when showing up again to confront Galactus, Strange makes a deal. It's like, I'll be your herald, and I will find you a planet to sustain yourself. And Galactus agrees. But this would have been like a perfect time to try to send Galactus back to the earthly, or at least not earthly, but the regular plane where you came from. But he, I guess time was of the essence, so he doesn't have that kind of time to weave that kind of spell. So in order to buy a little bit more time to get around to that, he goes through the mystical universe to try to find a planet that is devoid of all life. So he spent like time is like irrelevant at this point, but he just goes and finds planet after planet, one with uh uh no life on it, and so he's having a tough time. Eventually, he does come across a planet. He thinks like, okay, this will suffice, because Galactus won't wait too long. Okay. So Galactus, along with Clea and Strange, go back through the same pathway that Strange took in order to get to that planet for Galactus to consume. Unfortunately, now is mired with the pathway is mired with obstacles that wasn't there previously. People trying to fight them off. That Strange, Clea, and a couple times Galactus has to swat away in order to get to where they need to get to. And it's all been orchestrated by, you guessed it, Dormammu. But he wasn't working alone. Galactus begins to consume the planet, but it was tampered with. Now the planet is trying to consume him. But he merged with it, and it kind of corrupted Galactus a bit. And it turns out Dormammu teamed up with Mephisto in order for Mephisto to have more souls to come his way upon allowing Dormammu utilizing Galactus in order to cause much devastation. It was mutual beneficial. Unfortunately, Dormammu underestimated his capabilities because as powerful he is, Galactus is a whole nother ball of wax. Galactus immediately overpowered Dormammu, absorbed him, add his power to his own. And now he's just on a complete tear. He still wants to consume. Omar tried to go to Mephisto trying to gain his assistance, because there was a comic, I don't know which one, where Galactus and Mephisto actually went toe to toe with one another, causing kind of like ripple effects. Because Mephisto, you think he's just like another, well, some people call him Marvel's Satan, but there's other tiers of demon lords in hell. One of them is the one below all, which would be more fitting to be what the Marvel equivalent to Lucifer would be. Mephisto is just a devil, but just one well-known one. And he captures Clea and Omar, and just kind of gloats the fact that because he's excited to get the newly fresh souls coming his way, not realizing that Dormammu's pretty much failed. So Dormammu's kind of like gloating, thinking like, oh, he's gonna just conquer as many places as he possibly can, starting with Earth. But like I said, he grossly overestimated his capabilities against somebody like Galactus, who's been around since the Big Bang, clearly long before maybe even Dormammu. So he kind of neutralized Dormammu easily and starts consuming many other entities, other demon lords who's trying to combat Galactus, but they quickly get absorbed or killed. Doctor Strange show up after telling Mephisto that because Galactus is in a space where he doesn't belong, he's affecting the balance. Technological stuff is encroaching on the mystical plane, while, because you see that affecting even hell itself. And mystical stuff is starting to affect things on the earthly plane. Like soldiers on the battlefield, they trying to shoot their guns and flowers and fairies are popping out of the barrels. Like Tony Stark and Reed Richards' technologies are like evaporating into ethereal energies and stuff like that. Things are going completely haywire all across the universe. And of course, Doctor Strange has to make a deal with, Mephisto, that he won't kill nobody, he won't do anybody harm, but he will owe Mephisto one favor, to be called upon him whenever Mephisto pleases, if he allows to get Omar and Clea's assistants in order to deal with Galactus, because it's affecting everybody, including him. So he, made the deal. Strange tried to go to, like, the kind of beings that should be able to handle this, but this part kind of bugged me, because he goes to the Living Tribunal and Eternity, two beings that should be definitely powerful than even somebody like Galactus himself in terms of hierarchy, but they don't bother to intervene because they view a Galactus, because he's consuming life, is still around, they're still balanced, just shifted to another place, so there's nothing for them technically to intervene for. It's like, seriously, that's your mindset? It's like, he does belong here, he's causing imbalance, but because it isn't like, Galactus isn't technically breaking any kind of universal law, it's, not something for them to intervene upon. Like, sure, whatever. So, of course, plan A won't work. So he goes to plan B, where he calls upon his, mystical allies in order for to try to help stop this, because Omar and Clea utilizing the forces of the mystical realm to subdue Galactus. Of course, most of those forces are pretty much being annihilated. Then the mystical heroes as well as cosmic heroes show up to try to combat this. You see, even Nightmare, another rogue of Doctor Strange's, is getting affected because he thrives on the nightmares of beings. But since so many are getting annihilated, there's nothing for him to feed off of, so he's pretty much starving to death, essentially. Because the only beings that eventually is going to be left is Galactus, so he'll be just like a shriveled entity. So, yeah. All these forces trying to combat Galactus, but it's not working. No matter how powerful the demon or entity could be, they all are falling. Especially the more Galactus consumes, the more powerful he's becoming. Even the cosmic heroes are, really not much of a match. Even those ones that are like uber powerful in their own right, like Hulk going down, Captain Marvel going down. Omar looks at Strange and he knows that she knows what his true plan is, but she's not saying much. Black Bolt tries to step in, utilizing his powerful scream to try to knock out Galactus. It says him staggering, but it won't work. He kills Black Bolt, steal his powers, added to his own. Gladiator, another uber powerful character in the Marvel Comics, despite his best efforts, he's taken out. Just one by one. It's like people are just going down. One second. That's 6 was. Yeah, number 6. Sorry, I'm just blanking on which slide. But this was all Strange's plan. Essentially, he took it upon himself to send every ally in this fight careening into Galactus, essentially, to absorb. He wants Galactus, and that's what Omar realized what his plan was. It was like the only thing that Strange could come up with in order to neutralize Galactus for good is to get him to go to critical mass. So Strange, utilizing a mace he created on his own, another mystical item that he made himself, to shatter Galactus, which shatters the universe essentially into this white void. Whereas now, only thing left is Strange, the Living Tribunal, and Eternity. And then Eternity got the nerve to ask Strange, like, do you think yourself a god, Strange? Shut up. You didn't step in when he come to ask for your help in the first place. This could have all been avoided if y'all just did something. Y'all two are the most powerful beings in this universe. You can easily have separate or reverse all this stuff your own, but you chose not to. Like, get off your little high horse. So they, pretty much allow Strange to, they have the capability to give Strange the use of, because everything's pretty much been reduced. The universe has been reduced to like a singularity, and Strange, of course, Living Tribunal is kind of hesitant on leaving this in the hands of a human being, but Strange could easily set everything the way it was, but they're concerned with him letting his ego get in the way and changing the way whatever he wants to change it in a way. That's what their kind of biggest worry is right now. But Strange points out to them that before he ended up in here, he was pulled to hell by Mephisto, who didn't care for the idea of no more added souls coming his way. So he reminds Strange that, hey, you are a surgeon, are you? Maybe you can utilize that to knit the universe back together again. So Strange, letting the Living Tribunal and Eternity know that I'm a doctor. I swore an oath to do no harm. I have a responsibility here. So I'm going to set everything back in its place. So utilizing the help of the Living Tribunal and Eternity, Strange set the course, of the Marvel Universe from start to finish, at least up to the point of where this all began. But no deviation, not a single one. So the course of history with Celestials and Roman Empire, landing on the moon, Captain America, the Fantastic Four, dinosaurs, all that stuff play out the way it needed to play out. All the good and the bad. All stuff like Thanos, the Kree, the Skrull, Kang, Hitler, Doctor Doom, Dormammu, the Kree leader. I forgot the Kree leader's name. That is, death. That has to play out the way they need to play out. They have to exist. So we got all the way to the point of when Zos showed up at Strange's domicile. But this time, here is where he's going to do like a shift. Where he, instead of the way things played out, because Strange was caught off guard by this guy, now it's like, okay, he's going to trap Zos in like a bubble shield, so that way he can have a legit conversation with him, and tells Zos that Earth wasn't the only place that Galactus stayed away from. It was also Norrin-Rad, the Silver Surfer's planet, that he also did not consume, because the Silver Surfer made a deal with Galactus to be his herald in order to find other planets to consume that doesn't have any life on it, so that way Galactus will choose not to consume his homeworld. So that's what Zos has to do. And this goes against everything Zos believed in, whatever his race believed in, about going down fighting. So Zos decides to be Galactus's herald, in order, to avoid the catastrophe that bestowed upon number 4. And then the Living Tribunal and Eternity tells Strange that he will forget eventually what transpired in, in history up until a certain point. So he knows what he'll do, but all this stuff will be set right essentially. But before he goes home, he gets plucked again by Mephisto, and Mephisto says, "I want to call him my deal." And Strange was like, "What are you talking about? Like, I said everything right. I did what you asked. Like, I said everything right." Mephisto points out, like, no. That I was giving you advice on, in order to help heal everything, to set everything right. That wasn't my that wasn't my legit request. Which technically he's right. He wasn't making a request. That was something he was giving like an advice on for Strange to fix everything. And of course, because Mephisto is super obsessed with people's relationships, because he wanted to ruin everybody's relationships, he wants Strange to erase any memory and history that Clea knows of him, pretty much shattering any kind of relationship or any hopes of relationship with Clea, or any kind of rekindling, I should say, with Clea. Now, of course, that obviously did not stick, because currently right now in comics, him and Clea are essentially married again and living together in the Sanctum Sanctorum. So it's like, uh, it's that relationship isn't really ruined. But at this point in time, that is the deal, because even though Strange is like, you don't get nothing out of this. Well, no, he does get something out of this. Just your anguish. It's probably something that he loves just about as much as he loves souls. Because Mephisto is a dick. So Strange goes to Clea and erase every memory and history that she had of him as per the request. And that's pretty much ends this particular adventure. Now there's like epilogues here, which I don't think is ultimately necessary, but I guess it kind of sets up whatever new run that will come later after this one, where a mom and her young son was on the road trying to get to their destination, where a ghost pops up, frightens them, causing her to crash, which resulted in like a injury for the son. Strange shows up, unfortunately not in the nick of time, but subdues the ghost, but couldn't really eradicate him because some unfinished business or ill will the spirit has or whatever. But the mom, worried about her son Danny, Strange noticed that, okay, his brain is hemorrhaging and he can't move him, is too dangerous. He needs an operation right now, and something that he really wished he didn't have to do, because his hands ain't fit for surgical procedures, and he doesn't know anybody that he can get here in time that can perform the procedure the same way he would have. So seeing his grieving mother and knowing that he still took an oath as a doctor, he has to do something. So he uses astral projection to go to this kind of mystical librarian, this ugly sucker, and he needs the knowledge in order to heal his hands. And of course, this librarian mentions like there will be a price to pay for this, so you know. And it's like there always are. So Strange picked up one of the spiked books, read the contents in order to be able to heal his hands. So his hands kind of, his old hands disintegrate and then regrow anew. So now he has brand new healed hands, so he can perform the necessary surgery, all the while keeping this ghost from attacking the mom. And of course, he tells the mom to grab his Eye of Agamotto and shine it in the ghost's face to feel all. It's pretty much like the Ghost Rider's penance stare, essentially, where the ghost is feeling all the horrific things he did to motorists on the road and feeling their anguish. And so he disappears, after he says he's sorry. And Strange managed to heal and stitch up Danny just in time so that way they can get him to a hospital to look after him and give him like the necessary rehabilitation that he'll need. But now Strange has healed hands, at least in this point in time. Don't know, that kind of got retconned back to place where he has like, the kind of hands he used to have. But now he's brand new again. So we've got last slide here. Strange has a nightmare where he's in a operating room, and he's asking for these particular tools, but all the doctors there saying like, we haven't used those in years. We now using gamma sutures or whatever, and it's all like a nightmare, pretty much, probably caused by the evil villain nightmare. I'm pretty sure that was his face on a lot of those doctors' faces. And then Strange realized that it's probably something in his subconscious that wants to go back to, since now he has healed hands, which he can, wield at his full capabilities now. He wants to be able to practice medicine again, because it's something that he always loved to do. But now he's, debating on how he can balance that along with his job as Sorcerer Supreme. And he figures, well, and of course, this will be handled in that new run, but how to figure out how to balance things, because sure, he's not always combating mystical forces, but so he can always still help with like medicine and whatnot. And by reverse, he's not always having to be called upon to help perform brain surgery, so he can still, service the rules of his station as Sorcerer Supreme. So he figures he can be able to balance it well. But I remember the new run and him still struggling a bit because things always come up. You're a doctor. You're always on call. You never know what might happen. And the same thing with being like a Sorcerer Supreme. You never know what might happen. Who might need you out in the world to help with whatever mystical problems that need to be helped. It's similar to how Spider-Man is with his job as Spider-Man and as, his daily life as Peter Parker. It's not easy to have a double life. One, because you've been kind of like living good essentially, where you just have to worry about one task. Because even if you're not doing your Sorcerer Supreme thing, you pretty much have like a free day essentially, where you can like do whatever, study or read certain books, or help out with whatever. Sorcerer Supreme may not be like a 24/7 job per se. You might have like a bit of free time every once in a while, but something will come up where you're gonna be called upon, and that's something you're maybe like, I wouldn't say arrogant to think, but it's just you have high hopes that it'll work out in your favor. But he tries to find Kana because he realizes that since it's been such a long time since he practiced surgery, there's been advancements in medical technology that he is not privy to. So he'll need like a quick re-download essentially of that knowledge, which I don't know why you can't do that on just like a plain old mystical level. It has to be like a technological mystical way of doing it, which is I think it's kind of like I want to say like a weird way to get Kana involved before the run is over. But it's just like, come on, you mean to tell me there's no mystical means of taking like a new medical book or a couple of new medical books and absorb the context of the knowledge into your mind. You gotta have like a techno magical way of doing it. It's just like uh, a very low tier way of trying to get kind of involved one more time. But he calls upon her, but she's in the middle of a fight on another alien planet, dealing with this, you know, uh, evil monarch who's trying to take over by mystical and mechanical means. He ends up possessing who Strange mistook for the ancient one, but it's like a different ancient one. Remember, every alien race has their own particular mage. So this is like a statue which this monarch mystically take over to attack Strange and Kana and this other soldier. But Strange, trying to fight it off, he could not wield his magic, in a timely fashion, because now he has brand new hands. He hasn't gotten used to wielding spells, and because the way he used to wield spells is like muscle memory. Now he has brand new hands. He's not used to wielding them to weave magic the same way. So he has to get used to it, which obviously in the middle of a fight, not a proper time to do so. But he utilized Kana's mystical sword in order to slice into this statue to drain the spirit of this monarch into this sword, so it can be taken to a sun or whatever entities that he made deals with to come claim his spirit. Strange ultimately did not care, but the fight is over essentially. He gets Kana's help in order to get the mystical download, so that way he can be up to date with the current medical jargon and tools. And it's the last time we actually see Kana moving forward. And the next new run will be Doctor Strange's Surgeon Supreme. And that is Doctor Strange's Sorcerer of the Galaxy. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my biggest grief that I want to wait until probably the end to bring it up is that I kind of was expecting to spend most of the time with Strange in space, learning new magic from different alien races. We only get little snippets. We don't even see that blacksmith dwarf ever again, or the forge. These little snippets, because we ultimately didn't really need to see like Strange helping like the. I guess it's cool to see, but we ultimately did not need to waste page real estate in order to see him deal with these corporations trying to buy up the Grimwitz village, and the whole Galactus thing, I guess was okay, but ultimately we can spend like this adventure just with Strange with this new ally Kana, which nobody's ever touched since, in order to go planet hopping, essentially helping other races while Strange is learning a new mystical skill. Now, of course, you can still keep with the whole accountant thing, explaining to Strange that, like, because he was already upset because the fact that, I forgot to bring this up, he made that deal because, he's trying to save the planet. Well, because instead of paying the debt, you chose to go off world to go to other races to learn magic from them. Now you keep stacking the bill. And I kind of like that because, like, no, you keep circumventing everything instead of paying the due. So you chose to, like, instead of paying the due, you chose to double down it by going to, like, a whole entirely different restaurant and racking up a tab there. It's like, I thought that was pretty dope. And that's where it probably should have, this whole arc should have ended. Because it's set up to, like, we don't know what this mystery of what happened to Strange's mystical abilities that he learned here. So it's just mysteriously gone. So he goes on this adventure with, Kana in space, go to one planet, learn this skill from this alien, and go on this particular adventure. Then they're off to another planet that he can learn a different, like, learn these attack spells from this alien race, or certain defense spells from this race, healing spell from this particular mage, gather certain artifacts, then meeting this blacksmith dwarf to teach him, or at least inform him that you need to start building your own artifacts that you can call your own legitimately instead of borrowing from others, which could have been like a good crux of the story here, because this accountant saying, like, okay, you racked up the bill because you keep borrowing powers to aid you in battle from these other races, but you could easily circumvent many of that stuff by building your own stuff, so that way you can't owe yourself. It's kind of like, instead of going to other people's bars, you can build your own bar and stock it up with your own alcohol, so you can always make your own drink. It's essentially what, you can equate that to. I didn't care for all this added stuff where I don't think it's ultimately really necessary. And you can still tack on him rehealing his hands so that way you can start this whole new adventure in a new run. But that's what I didn't really care for personally. I like the idea of him learning new magic from other alien races, but that's where it should have just kept that for the bulk of the run, and then coming back to Earth, and then the whole thing with the whole Casey thing, that can easily be taken out. Didn't really care. It's satisfying whatever adventure that was left on the table from some other Doctor Strange adventure that I don't think many people read. I never heard this Casey person before, in all honesty. But I guess it's kind of like a forced tie-in to something, or just trying to wrap up a narrative that was left on the table. But ultimately, I did not really care. There's another waste of page real estate, honestly. But yeah, it's just kept, like, learning mystical abilities from space, and then eventually coming back to Earth, and then wrapping up the story with the accountant, which we left that on the table. Whatever happened to him, they never really addressed that other bills that still need to be due and satisfy. Okay, I realize I racked up a debt. How can I satisfy that? And maybe after dealing with someone like Galactus and resetting everything, maybe he kind of neutralized the debt so he can start fresh, essentially. Or at the very end, go to these, heralds of these different entities that he borrowed, been borrowing his power from, and making some kind of agreement like he did with Mephisto, where it's like, okay, I will owe you a task. I won't kill nobody or hurt anybody, but whatever you want from me to do on your behalf, I will do it in order to repay my debt. Something like that. And that's could have just been the bulk of your entire story. That's how I feel. But like I said, like at least the first half of this 20 issue run is pretty solid. Afterwards, it's kind of like it's fine. It doesn't really. It's not egregious. It's still like a fine stories, or at least fine arcs, I should say. But anyway, that was Doctor Strange. I got a couple of short comic books stories that I want to review. One of which is in perfect timing for like the Christmas holiday, so I look forward to that. But anyway, I will see you guys soon. Sorry for like the brief intermission earlier, but I had to handle some emergency business. You understand. But in any case, I will see you guys soon. Take care. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Have you read this story? If you did, let me know how you felt about it. And I will see you guys next time for a new comic book review. Peace.